The highlands stretched before Kale and the princesses, jagged cliffs and green valleys illuminated by the rising sun. The journey had been long and dangerous, but they had survived each obstacle through trust, teamwork, and the combination of human ingenuity with alien skill. Kale knew that the hardest challenge was still ahead. The enemy factions were not defeated, they were scattered, angry, and desperate. "From here," Kale said, pointing to a valley below, "we can see their patrols. If we plan carefully, we can move without being detected." The elder princess squinted at the landscape, her sharp eyes analyzing every ridge and slope. "Their scouts are few but organized. They will rely on traps, ambushes, and misinformation. We cannot underestimate them." The younger princess knelt, scanning the ground and noting the tracks of recent patrols. "There is a path through the eastern cliffs," she said. "It is narrow and dangerous, but it will allow us to bypass most of the enemy." Kyle nodded. "Then we go east. Stay close and follow my lead. We cannot afford mistakes." As they descended the cliffs, Kale kept his sword ready, eyes scanning every movement in the valley below. The princesses moved silently beside him, one analyzing the environment for dangers, the other noting weaknesses in enemy positions. They were no longer simply observers, they were partners in strategy. Suddenly, a loud shout echoed across the valley. Kale froze, signaling the princesses to take cover. From behind a ridge, a squad of enemy warriors appeared, heavily armed and moving swiftly toward them. Kale assessed the situation. They were outnumbered, but the terrain offered opportunities. "We'll split their forces," the elder princess whispered. "Use the rocks and cliffs to confuse them. Force them into narrow passages." Kale nodded. "I trust your judgment." He moved quickly, drawing the enemy into a trap. The younger princess used her knowledge of the terrain to trigger small rock slides, blocking paths and isolating groups of warriors. Kyle struck with precision, disabling weapons and forcing enemies to retreat. The elder princess directed movements from higher ground, predicting enemy reactions and signaling Kale to take advantage of openings. By the time the last enemy fell back, Kale was breathing heavily, but alive. The princesses joined him, calm but alert. Kale looked at them with respect. "You were incredible. I could not have done this without you." The elder princess tilted her head. "We are not just survivors, human. We are strategists, fighters, and thinkers. Together, we are stronger than any enemy," the younger princess added, "and we fight only when necessary. Planning is more powerful than recklessness." Kyle smiled faintly. "I am learning that every day." After the skirmish, they pressed forward. The valley gave way to a dense forest, the canopy casting shadows across the ground. Kyle felt a sense of relief. Visibility was limited for their enemies, giving them an advantage. But the forest also held unknown dangers. Creatures native to the planet moved silently, and hidden traps from previous conflicts remained. The princesses moved confidently through the forest, marking safe paths and warning Kale of hazards. Kale realized that their knowledge of alien biology, technology, and strategy was invaluable. He was no longer a lone warrior leading two outsiders. He was part of a team that could think, plan, and survive in ways he could not have imagined. Hours later, they reached a clearing with a small river running through it. Kyle allowed them a brief rest, drinking and replenishing supplies. The elder princess observed the area carefully. "This is a good place to prepare," she said. "We can make defensive positions, and the water source ensures we will not be slowed by thirst." Kale nodded. "Good. We will stay here until nightfall. Then we move toward the central stronghold. If we reach it, we can negotiate, show our strength, and perhaps prevent more bloodshed." As they prepared for the night, Kale felt a sense of pride. The princesses had come a long way from cautious observers to skilled partners. They had survived attacks, navigated dangerous terrain, and contributed to planning and strategy. Kale knew the final challenge would test them all, but he also knew that together, they were formidable. Night fell, and the forest became quiet, except for the gentle flow of the river. Kale and the princesses kept watch, taking turns and ensuring they were not caught off guard. The stars above were bright, and Kale felt a strange sense of hope. They had endured so much, yet the journey was not yet complete. Suddenly, a series of distant explosions echoed through the forest. Kale's eyes widened. "The central stronghold," he whispered. "Something is happening there. We must hurry." They moved swiftly but cautiously, following the river as it wound through the forest. The sounds of conflict grew louder, and Kale's heart pounded. This was the moment that would decide the fate of the factions, and possibly the planet. As they neared the stronghold, they saw chaos. Enemy soldiers clashed with defenders, structures burned, and civilians fled in every direction. Kale knew they could not intervene directly. They were too few. But they could use strategy, surprise, and intelligence to tip the balance. The elder princess observed carefully. "We can create a diversion," she said. "Draw some of the enemy forces away, allowing the defenders to regroup." The younger princess added, "We can disable their supply lines. Machines and weapons stored. Outside can be sabotaged. It will give the defenders an advantage." Kale nodded. "Then we do it, together." They split into teams. Kale and the younger princess moved toward the supply area, using stealth and knowledge of alien machinery to disable weapons and vehicles. The elder princess coordinated from higher ground, signaling movements and predicting enemy responses. Their plan worked perfectly. Confused and weakened, the enemy forces faltered, giving the defenders the chance to push back and regain control of key positions. By dawn, the battle had shifted. The stronghold, once on the brink of collapse, stood firm. Civilians emerged from hiding, and the defenders regrouped, inspired by the unexpected advantage. Kyle and the princesses joined them, helping tend to the wounded and organizing defenses. The elder princess looked at Kyle with respect. "You have not only survived, human, but you have led with intelligence and courage. Your people's resilience is remarkable." The younger princess smiled faintly. "And you have proven that humans can inspire even those of us trained in tactics and strategy. You are a worthy leader." Kale felt a sense of satisfaction he had never known. This was more than survival. This was achievement, unity, and respect. He had earned the trust of the princesses, and together, they had changed the course of a conflict. As the sun rose, casting light over the repaired stronghold, Kale spoke to the princesses. "This is what I wanted to show you. Humans can endure, adapt, and overcome, but we cannot do it alone. It is the combination of courage, intelligence, and teamwork that makes the difference." The elder princess nodded. "You have proven it, human. Our people will remember this day." The younger princess added, "And we have learned that trust, respect, and understanding can create alliances stronger than any weapon." Kyle smiled. For the first time, he felt that the journey had fulfilled more than just survival. It had forged bonds, inspired respect, and shown the strength of humanity in a galaxy that often underestimated it. The princesses returned to their people, no longer captives but leaders with newfound insight. Kyle watched them leave, feeling pride and hope. They had all survived, and more importantly, they had grown. Humanity had shown its resilience, intelligence, and courage. The story of the warrior and the two princesses would be told across planets, a tale of partnership, strategy, and the enduring strength of humans. As Kale walked away from the stronghold, he knew the universe was vast, full of dangers and opportunities. But he also knew one undeniable truth. Humans were capable of greatness, of inspiring allies, and of triumphing through ingenuity, courage, and determination. The journey had ended, but the legacy of their partnership would continue. Kale smiled, ready for whatever new challenges awaited, confident that humans could rise above any obstacle and leave their mark among the stars. The morning sun rose over the scarred plains of Zithara, casting long shadows across the broken battlefield. Kyle rose early, as always, and moved to inspect the surroundings. The princesses were already awake, standing silently at the edge of the camp, watching him with careful eyes. There was no warmth yet, only quiet observation. Kyle had come to expect it. Respect, as fragile as it was, had begun to form, but trust would take longer. He approached them slowly. "We need to plan our next move," he said. "Staying here is dangerous. There are still factions that won't forgive defeat, and they will try to take revenge." The elder princess, silver-haired and commanding, tilted her head. "Then we must move quickly. If our enemies catch us unprepared, we will be captured or worse." Kyle nodded. "Agreed. But moving too fast without a plan will get us killed as well. I need your help to understand what dangers are out there." For the first time, the princesses stepped closer, and Kale noticed the subtle differences in their movements. They were not just royalty, they were trained in observation and survival. Every gesture, every glance was calculated. The younger princess with deep blue hair spoke first. "There are patrols to the east. They will try to cut off your path if you try to leave the plains. They believe they can trap you here." Kyle studied the terrain, noting the patterns. In her words, "How do you know?" he asked. "Because we have studied their ways for years," she replied simply. "Their tactics are predictable. They rely on fear and intimidation. We can use that." Kyle felt a flicker of admiration. These were not helpless captives. They were thinkers, planners, strategists. If he could gain their trust, they could become allies unlike any humans had before. By mid-morning, Kale had prepared a plan. He gathered supplies, water, food rations, and tools that could help them survive long enough to reach a safe zone he had identified on old maps. He strapped his sword to his back and checked his sidearm, ensuring it was loaded. He looked at the princesses. "We leave in an hour," he said. The elder princess nodded. "We will follow for now. But know this. If you falter, we will not hesitate to protect ourselves." Kale understood. That was fair. He respected their resolve, and he knew that leadership was not about demanding loyalty. It was about earning it. The journey began slowly. Kyle led the way, moving through rocky plains and jagged cliffs. The princesses followed closely, their senses alert, eyes scanning the horizon for threats. Kyle noticed the younger one studying the ground, noting footprints and remnants of previous patrols. The elder kept her gaze on the sky and surrounding hills, calculating distances and observing potential ambush points. By the third hour, Kale had learned more about their abilities. The younger princess could identify edible plants, clean water, sources, and safe resting spots with almost supernatural accuracy. The elder could predict enemy behavior, read body language, and identify weaknesses and strategies before a move was even made. Kyle realized that humans had endurance, but these princesses had skill, knowledge, and intuition, tools that could make the difference between life and death. Their journey was interrupted by a sudden rumble. Kyle froze, signaling the princesses to stop. In the distance, a group of alien war machines emerged from a ravine, their armor glinting in the sun. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were faster, more heavily armed, and far more dangerous than anything Kale had faced so far. "They know we are coming," the elder princess said calmly. "They want to capture us before we reach the safe zone. We must move carefully." Kyle scanned the terrain, calculating options. "We cannot fight them head-on. Too many. We need to outsmart them." The younger princess knelt, studying the ground. "There is a narrow canyon ahead," she said. "We can use it. They cannot maneuver their machines through it easily." Kyle nodded. "Lead the way." They moved quickly but cautiously. Kale followed the princess's directions, weaving through rocks and broken earth. As they reached the canyon, the war machines pursued, their engines roaring, shaking the ground. Kale drew his sword, ready to fight if necessary, but he relied on the princess's knowledge to guide their escape. The elder princess spotted a trap point, a pile of boulders that could be pushed to block the canyon. "Push them when they enter," she said. Kale waited, counting the machines as they entered the narrow pass. Timing was everything. With a sudden heave, he pushed the boulders into place, and the machines were trapped, unable to advance without destroying themselves. Kale looked at the princesses, impressed. They had planned this perfectly. You are quick thinkers, he said. I underestimated you. The elder princess's eyes softened slightly, though her expression remained firm. Do not underestimate anyone human. Intelligence is survival. Kale smiled faintly. I am learning. That night they camped near a small stream. The younger princess gathered edible plants, boiling water, and preparing a simple meal. The elder stayed alert, her gaze scanning the horizon, but she allowed herself a brief moment of relaxation. Kyle watched them, realizing how much had changed in just a few days. They were no longer simply princesses in need of protection. They were allies, partners in survival. Around the fire, Kyle spoke quietly. Tomorrow we reach the safe zone. But I want you to know something. I do not see you as gifts or captives or trophies. I see you as equals in this journey. You have skills. I do not. Knowledge I cannot match. Together we are stronger. The elder princess studied him. You speak honestly, human. That is rare among your kind. Then believe me, Kyle said. I will protect you, not because I must, but because I choose to. The younger princess looked down at the fire, her expression thoughtful. Choices define who we are, she said softly. You are making the right one for now. Their conversation was interrupted by a distant scream. Kyle tensed, reaching for his weapon. The princesses mirrored him, ready. From the darkened horizon, figures emerged, humans or alien survivors from smaller factions, fleeing the chaos caused by the war machines. Kale lowered his weapon slightly but remained alert. The refugees told stories of villages destroyed, families lost, and machines roaming freely. Kale listened, his resolve hardening. The danger was far from over. The princesses also listened, their expressions revealing empathy and concern. Kale realized they were not just thinking strategically, they cared about life, about people, in ways that went beyond politics or royalty. By dawn, they continued their journey. The terrain grew harsher, filled with jagged rocks, hidden ravines, and sudden drops. Kale led with caution, but the princess's guidance proved invaluable. They spotted natural hazards, identified safe paths, and even helped improvise traps for potential attackers. Kale marveled at their adaptability. Humans had endurance, yes, but these princesses had instinct and knowledge, abilities that complemented his own skills perfectly. Late in the afternoon, they reached the outskirts of the safe zone, a small settlement built into the cliffs. It was abandoned, but the structures were intact. Kale led them inside, securing the perimeter. The princesses explored cautiously, cataloging weaknesses and safe spots. Kale felt a strange sense of pride. They were learning, observing, and thinking, just as he had hoped. That evening, as they rested, Kale and the princesses shared stories. Kale spoke of his home, of battles fought, and of humanity's resilience. The elder princess told stories of her people, their history, and their struggles. The younger shared tales of exploration and curiosity, of machines she had built and plans she had designed. Kyle listened, fascinated by their intelligence and creativity. For the first time, there was laughter around the fire. Small, cautious, but real. Kyle felt a warmth he had not expected. Trust was growing, slowly, between the warrior human and the alien princesses. As night deepened, Kyle looked up at the stars. The journey was far from over. Dangers still lurked, enemies still hunted them, and the task ahead would test their courage and skill. But for the first time, he felt that they could face it together. Not as captor and captives, but as allies, partners, and perhaps one day, friends. Kyle knew this was only the beginning. The war had ended, but survival was just starting. And, with the princesses at his side, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humans had endured the impossible before, and with their ingenuity and bravery, they could endure it again. The next morning, Kyle woke before dawn, the cold air biting at his skin. The two princesses were already awake, standing quietly near the edge of the settlement. watching the horizon. Kale stretched, checking his gear, his eyes following the faint glow of the alien sunrise. It was calm for now, but he knew calm was fragile. Danger had not disappeared. It had only been delayed. "We should move soon," Kyle said, approaching them. "Staying here too long is risky. Others may be tracking us." The elder princess, her silver hair glinting in the early light, nodded. "We are ready. This settlement is safe enough for now, but it is isolated. We cannot rely on it for long." The younger princess, her dark blue hair slightly tangled from sleep, studied the horizon. "There is a ridge ahead," she said. "If we cross it, we may see the next stretch of open land. We could avoid patrols that way." Kale considered her words carefully. "All right," he said. "We will take your path. Lead the way, but be cautious. I do not want surprises." They packed their supplies quickly, moving with efficiency and precision. The princess's skills were clear. The elder could calculate distances, predict enemy patrol patterns, and identify hidden dangers. The younger could spot edible plants, fresh water sources, and traps, skills that kept them alive in this unforgiving world. Kale was learning that their intelligence complemented his own experience in ways he had not expected. As they crossed the ridge, the landscape below opened into a vast desert-like expanse, dotted with jagged rock formations. The wind blew fiercely, carrying dust and debris. Kyle squinted, scanning for threats. In the distance, he could see a small convoy of alien vehicles moving across the sand. Their engines glinted in the sunlight, and he immediately understood they were searching for them. "They are looking for us," Kale said. "We need to move faster." The elder princess nodded. "We can use the formations of the rocks ahead. They can hide us, but we must remain silent and careful. The desert amplifies sound. One wrong move, and they will find us." Kyle adjusted his gear, motioning for the princesses to follow closely. They moved quietly, keeping low, using the rocks for cover. The younger princess scanned ahead, signaling when the path was clear. Kyle noticed how their movements were almost synchronized, a silent understanding forming between them. He realized that trust was growing, not yet complete, but enough to function as a team. Hours passed, the sun climbing high into the sky. The desert heat was merciless, sapping energy and patience. Kyle kept the princesses moving, offering water and encouragement when necessary. The younger princess found a small oasis, hidden behind rocks and sand, providing a brief respite. They drank and rested, careful not to leave traces that could reveal their position. While they rested, the elder princess spoke. "Your people are resilient, human. I can see it in how you lead and adapt. You do not panic when plans fail. That is rare." Kale shrugged, wiping sweat from his brow. "We survive because we must. Instinct helps, yes, but we also learn from each failure. Every battle teaches something." The younger princess looked thoughtful. "And yet you fight with honor. That is not always common among those who survive." Kale smiled faintly. "Honor keeps people alive too. Not just for respect, but for trust. Without trust, nothing lasts." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden disturbance. A group of alien scouts appeared from the sand dunes, fast-moving and armed. Kyle froze, signaling the princesses to take cover behind the nearest rock formations. The elder princess quickly analyzed the scouts' positions, calculating their speed and probable trajectory. "They will try to surround us," she said calmly. "If we move straight, we risk exposure. We must split their attention." Kyle nodded. "You handle the strategy. I'll handle the fight." With a subtle gesture, the elder princess pointed to the younger. The younger princess nodded and moved swiftly, creating small diversions, kicking up dust, throwing rocks, and setting minor traps. The scouts hesitated, confused by the sudden distractions. Kyle took the opportunity to engage, moving with precision and efficiency, disabling their weapons and forcing a retreat. When the last scout fled, Kyle lowered his weapon, breathing heavily. The princesses joined him, unscathed. Kyle looked at them with genuine respect. You are more capable than I imagined, he said. The elder princess tilted her head slightly. We survive because we must. That is all. The younger princess added, and we fight only when necessary. Strategy is better than recklessness. Kyle felt a bond forming. They were no longer simply individuals forced together by circumstance. They were a team. The journey was beginning to shape them, teaching them how to rely on each other, how to combine human instincts with alien intelligence. As they continued across the desert, Kyle noticed something unusual, a faint glimmer in the distance, partially hidden among the rocks. He motioned for the princesses to stop. Look over there, he said. Could be a settlement or a trap. We need to approach carefully. The elder princess studied the area through a small optical device she carried. It is a settlement, human. Abandoned, but structures remain intact. Could provide shelter, supplies, and a chance to rest. Kyle nodded. Good. We will approach slowly. Make sure it is safe. They moved cautiously, scanning for any signs of danger. When they reached the settlement, it was eerily quiet. Broken buildings, overturned carts, and signs of struggle hinted at past conflict. Kyle stayed alert, ready for ambush, while the princesses scouted ahead. Inside one of the larger buildings, they found a cache of supplies. Food, water, medical kits. It was enough to sustain them for days. The elder princess inspected the area, noting structural weaknesses and hidden spaces that could serve as defensive positions if needed. The younger princess examined the stored technology, identifying devices that could be repurposed for communication or surveillance. Kale felt a surge of relief. This will help. We can rest, regroup, and plan our next move. That evening, around a small fire inside the building, Kale and the princesses discussed their next steps. We need to reach the highlands before nightfall tomorrow, Kale said. The terrain there offers better visibility and fewer chances for ambush. The elder princess agreed. The highlands will also allow us to see patrol patterns more clearly. We can plan an approach to the next safe zone from there, the younger princess added. And we can find water sources more easily. The highlands have streams that run year-round. Kale nodded, feeling gratitude for their guidance. We are moving forward because we work together. You are not just observers. You are crucial to our survival. The conversation turned to more personal topics. Kale spoke of his family, of Earth, and of battles fought in distant worlds. The princesses shared memories of their home, of lessons learned, and of hopes for peace. There was no teasing, no laughter yet, but the atmosphere was warmer than it had been before. Respect was growing, and with it, a fragile sense of trust. Night fell, and the desert became quiet, except for the occasional howl of distant creatures. Kale stood watch, the princesses resting beside him. He felt a sense of responsibility heavier than any armor or weapon. These two lives, these two intelligent beings depended on him. Failure was not an option. During his watch, Kale thought about the journey ahead. The highlands were only the next step. Beyond them lay enemy territories, political intrigue, and the unknown dangers of alien landscapes. But he felt a quiet confidence. Humans were resilient, capable of adapting to almost any situation. With the princess's skills combined with his own experience, they had a real chance of surviving, of making a difference. As the stars shone brightly above, Kale realized that this journey was no longer just about survival. It was about proving the worth of humans, not as conquerors but as allies, as problem solvers, as beings capable of courage, intelligence, and honor. The princesses had given him a chance to show that, and he would not waste it. By the time dawn broke, they were ready to move again. The princesses stood, stretching, their determination clear in their eyes. Kyle felt a sense of pride and purpose. They were no longer captives, and he was no longer a lone warrior. They were a team, a group bound by circumstance, intelligence, and mutual respect. The journey ahead was dangerous, unpredictable, and full of challenges. But Kale felt certain of one thing. Humans could endure, adapt, and triumph, even in the face of impossible odds. and together they would face whatever the universe threw at them. Kale stood at the edge of the battlefield, his armor scorched and dented, the smell of burnt fuel and alien blood heavy in the air. The war had lasted for weeks, and finally, the enemy horde had fallen. Smoke rose from the shattered remains of alien ships scattered across the plains. The silence that followed was almost unbearable, broken only by the distant cries of wounded survivors. Humans rarely fought outside their territory, but Kale had been part of the elite strike force sent to bring peace to the war-torn planet of Zathara, and today he had succeeded. He had expected celebration, perhaps medals and a hero's welcome. Instead, he saw something entirely unexpected. From the horizon, a fleet of elegant alien ships approached, their shapes sleek and unfamiliar, their colors gleaming in the dying sunlight. They moved with precision, almost as if they were floating rather than flying. Kale's heart skipped a beat, though he did not know why. Something about the way they approached made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The lead ship landed smoothly and a figure emerged. She was tall, regal, and her presence commanded attention without a word. Her skin shimmered faintly under the light, and her eyes, a deep, unearthly violet, seemed to look straight through Kale. She was flanked by two younger figures, their posture stiff, hands clasped in front of them. Even from a distance, he could tell they were elegant, graceful, and accustomed to command. Kyle took a cautious step forward. "I am Kale," he said. His voice sounded small in the vast emptiness, but he held his chin high. "I accept your peace offering." The older woman inclined her head slightly. "You have fought well, human. For that my people are grateful. It is why I bring you these." She gestured to the two younger figures. "These are my daughters, princesses of the rival faction you defeated. As a symbol of peace, they are entrusted to you." Kyle froze. He had not expected this. The idea of receiving alien royalty as a gift was strange, uncomfortable, and yet undeniably significant. He remembered the stories humans told of ancient wars of prisoners and captives. But these were not mere captives. These were princesses, trained in diplomacy, survival, perhaps even war. Their potential could be as dangerous as it was valuable. The older woman's eyes softened slightly. "Do not mistake this for ownership. They are not slaves. They are entrusted to your care, to learn and understand humans. In time, their presence here may build trust between our peoples." Kale nodded slowly, understanding the weight of the responsibility. He had expected glory, not guardianship. He would need wisdom, patience, and courage, more than any weapon could give him. The two princesses stepped forward. The elder one had long silver hair and eyes like molten gold, filled with intelligence and a quiet fire. The younger one had deep blue hair, almost black, and eyes that shifted like water. They observed Kale with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity, their postures controlled, disciplined. Neither spoke. Kale raised his hand slightly, a gesture meant to show peace. "I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to control you. I will protect you, yes, but I also need to understand you." The elder princess's lips curved in a small, almost imperceptible smile. "Words are easy, human. Actions are not." Her voice was calm, measured, but beneath it was a quiet strength that demanded respect. The younger one's gaze flickered to Kale's sword, strapped to his back, and then to the battlefield around them. For a moment, fear softened her posture, but it quickly returned to the disciplined stance of royalty. "If you cannot lead, we will find our own way," she said softly, her voice carrying determination and pride. Kale nodded again. He felt the challenge in their words. They were not afraid of him, but they expected him to rise to the occasion, and rise he would. The older woman spoke again. "You have 1 week. 1 week to prove that your leadership can honor their safety and dignity. After that, they will accompany you on a mission critical to the survival of both our species." Kyle swallowed. A week to earn their trust, or at least show he was capable of keeping them safe. He looked at the princesses again. "Then we start now," he said. Their first day together was tense. Kale led them through the remnants of the battlefield, showing them the fallen and the machines left behind. He explained what had happened, how the humans had fought, and why they had won. The princesses listened, not interrupting, yet their expressions showed that they were processing every detail, analyzing every decision. Kyle realized quickly that underestimating them would be a grave mistake. By the second day, the princesses began to reveal fragments of their own knowledge. The elder princess spoke of alien tactics and strategies, how their armies had been trained, how certain systems worked. Kyle listened, realizing that she could predict the moves of the enemy better than any human officer. The younger princess had an uncanny understanding of alien machinery and could identify weaknesses in the wreckage that even Kale's engineers missed. Kale found himself relying on their insights more than he expected. He began to see them not as a burden, but as invaluable allies. Still, there was tension. They were not companions yet, not friends. They were cautious, aware that any misstep could have consequences. On the fourth day, a sudden attack forced Kale and the princesses to act. A rogue group of alien soldiers, loyal to the faction the princesses had come from, attempted to reclaim them. Kale fought with all his strength, and the princesses did not hide. They assisted. The elder directed humans to strategic positions, while the younger disabled enemy machinery with precise and daring moves. Together they held the line until reinforcements arrived. After the fight, the princesses finally acknowledged Kale in a way that went beyond words. Respect. Recognition of his courage, his intelligence, and his leadership. It was not friendship, but it was the foundation of it. Kale realized that this week, which had seemed like a trial, was instead the beginning of a partnership that could change the fate of worlds. As night fell, Kale sat by the campfire with the two princesses across from him. The stars above Zathara were bright alien constellations twinkling in the sky. The wind whispered across the plains, carrying the smell of ozone and ash. For the first time, the princesses relaxed, though only slightly. "You fight differently than humans I have heard of," the elder princess said. "There is logic, yes, but also something instinctive, something that makes you unpredictable." Kale smiled faintly. "Instinct keeps people alive. Logic keeps people alive too, but instinct saves more." The younger princess tilted her head. "Then perhaps we have more to learn from you than we thought." Kyle felt a strange warmth at her words. Not friendship, but acknowledgement. A beginning. And as the fires burned low, Kale realized that this gift, the two princesses, was not a burden, but an opportunity. An opportunity to show what humans were capable of, to teach, to lead, and perhaps even to inspire. Tomorrow, the real journey would begin. And Kale was ready.